This is gonna work, Steve.
I know it will. Because I don't know what I'm gonna do if it doesn't.
You know, I don't know if I've been happier having a 4K television and an Xbox One X to play movies on than when I was right in the middle of Avengers Endgame, the 4K Blu-ray that Disney sent out to me to review. I was looking forward to seeing this movie again. Obviously, it really doesn't need much of an introduction. It's the biggest movie of all time, box office-wise. This is the culmination of more than 20 Marvel Cinematic Universe films, and it wraps up things very nicely. It's also part 2 of the Infinity Stone story. Infinity War obviously sets up all of the events that happen. Finally get to see how the Avengers take care of Thanos after he had done such an incredible job of wiping out so much, well, half of everything in Infinity War. When you see Endgame again, what you're kind of struck with is all of the emotional undercurrents that exist within this film. I don't want to get into spoilers, but I know you've already seen this movie. Everybody in the world has. Obviously, there's all of the reconciling all the death that has befallen our heroes and the world and many multiple worlds, and how everybody is grappling with that and dealing with that, and it's quite heavy and emotional. We see Captain America in a therapy session with other people, other just regular schmoes, just trying to sort of get on with their lives, and he's trying to rally people in a very human way. We see that Thor has been, affected psychologically and also externally and physically. Everybody, Black Widow is just can't keep it together. She's crying. She's trying to get her family back together again and try to keep some semblance of order. Everybody is devastated and sad, and it's really kind of heartbreaking, the opening sequences. And we also see what happened to Hawkeye, because he wasn't in Infinity War, and that whole opening, very quiet, very muted opening sequence with Hawkeye and the loss of his family is just, it hits you very, very effectively. And then, once you see people being able to pull themselves back up and get back into the fight and dole out the damage that they're supposed to do and take care of things the way heroes like this would take care of things, it's triumphant, but it's also then turns into a celebration of all of these endeavors, this, multi-year, I think it's more than a decade long worth of people trying to create these comic book dreams into cinematic realities that would register and resonate across the world in a way that even, a co-creator of all of these visions, Stan Lee, couldn't even dream up. And it kind of hits you. I mean, we've been along for this ride, for the entirety of this ride.
Okay, who here hasn't been to space?
I don't know if Endgame exists as a solitary, action-driven, but emotionally powerful film in quite the same way that Infinity War does, but it's close, and you also can feel like they need each other. It needs that third act, that it's like the first act is all the setup that had come before in all of the other MCU movies. Infinity War is really, the combustion of all of these elements coming together. And then this is the third act kind of like hero's moment, is this going to resolve itself in a way that's going to make us all feel happy? And it certainly echoed, feelings that I had from Return of the King and Return of the Jedi, like these huge, massive ways to wrap up these movies that are larger than the screen. They echo across time and place and geography. As a kid from the 80s that used to just be completely floored by all the science fiction and fantasy stuff that was coming up, on the heels of Star Wars and the success of Star Wars, it just blows my mind the success that Marvel has had with these films. They sort of dip in, they have peaks and valleys for sure, and people like different ones for different reasons, and people can sort of rail against the homogeny and the fact that every movie kind of exists as a bit of a commercial for the next movie, but they're just unbelievably entertaining. I have been really, really impressed. And as somebody that's seen so many freaking movies, I've seen so much stuff because, obviously I created EP, so I fell in love with this whole idea of pop culture and fantasy and superheroes early on. The stuff that moved me enough to want to get into acting and into television production and create Electric Playground. But I cannot believe the power of these movies and the success of these movies, the fidelity of these movies, and it's all celebrated with Avengers Endgame.
I love you 3000.
Joe and Anthony Russo were the right leaders, the right directorial leaders to kind of shepherd this over the last few years, to put it all together, to kind of make sense of it all. It's also really kind of fascinating to learn as you dive into the behind the scenes that the two writers, Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus, were along for the ride right from the very first Captain America movie, and Captain America really does exist as, as the heart of the MCU, and he's so wonderfully celebrated in this movie. And I think Robert Downey Jr. is kind of the brains and the ego, the attitude of the MCU, and he is wonderfully celebrated in this as well. Both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans give fantastic performances, but after watching Endgame again, I tweeted about this, I really believe that the standout is Chris Hemsworth as Thor, who wears his emotions on his sleeve and wears the specter of failure, on his face, and he's just an emotionally devastated soul, this god superhero that is so powerful yet was unable to stop all the devastation that Thanos unleashed, and he feels so remorseful and so guilty, and you just there's an external sort of comedic bit that they play with to good effect, by the way, but I think under all of that is an unbelievably nuanced performance. Chris Hemsworth is extraordinary in this picture because he really, he sums it all up, what everybody is feeling, what all of these heroes are feeling, and he does it with such gentleness and such humanity and he's so vulnerable. It's unbelievable. It's for a character that's so powerful and so fraught with his own egomaniacal kind of attitudes. He sort of touches and gets into our hearts with this performance. Behind all of the silliness that's sort of front and center, just extraordinary work there. Really, really impressed. I was also blown away by the camaraderie and the emotional kind of beats that are at the center of Black Widow and Hawkeye's performance. They have an incredible mission. Very nice interplay between those two fantastic characters.
Don't give me hope.
Absolutely blown away by the quality of the 4K picture and the fidelity of the audio in this movie, and I felt like it was an indulgent escape for me. I was blown away. I expected to be, but it still surprised me. It felt like I was in a movie theater in my house. The colors were massive, and the set pieces are massive, and the effects are incredible. Everything just has this believability that you just get completely embraced by, and the sound and the color and the lights and the flash and the performances, all of it was just so engrossing. But what really got me are the behind the scenes, which don't just focus on the production of this one movie. They celebrate different characters, the ones that you would expect to be celebrated. They dive deep in there. They have, early footage of these actors getting into their suits and getting into their roles, inhabiting these performances. There's a great celebration of Stan Lee. There's some deleted scenes, of course, and gag reels and introductions by the Russo brothers and commentary by the Russos, and honestly, all of it is lovely. Maybe not enough of it, because the curious fanboy in me that was completely enamored by myth-making like this that Hollywood is capable of always wants more of it. That's why another reason why I created EP. I would have liked more, but still incredibly effective. But the one that really got me, and I wasn't expecting, and I think it's an exclusive to the iTunes digital cut, which you get as part of the Blu-ray package. You get a regular Blu-ray, of course, you get the 4K Blu-ray, you get a bonus disc, and then you also get the digital code. And I wanted to look into the digital stuff just to see if there was any exclusive bonus content there that's not included on the disc. The one that is The Last Dance with Peggy and Steve Rogers, and it was amazing. I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's just presented so beautiful, and it calls back to the Joe Johnston setup with the original Captain America movie, and these two actors, Haley Atwell and Chris Evans, are fantastic together, and their characters are great, and it's just a really, really lovely thing, and I wasn't expecting to be so moved by it, but I really was.
It's beautiful.
The whole film, as powerful as it is, and as filled with heroics and incredible moments that make you cheer even if you've seen it 50 times, it's also got a real heart and a real sensitivity and a real awareness that it's, we care about these characters more than just because they look cool or they can do cool things. These actors and these characters, they represent sensibilities and worldviews that we aspire to. It's a real treat, and it absolutely deserves to be in your collection. Do I think the movie is as good as Infinity War, or is it the best of the MCU films? That's probably going to be something that I debate internally forever. I just know that this is essential, especially if you've been along for the ride and had as much fun as I have had. I'm going to give Avengers Endgame on 4K Blu-ray a 10 out of 10.